Let's put VAR and red card nonsense behind us. It is a Champions League week here on the Plus Money podcast. We've got 2 days, 8 matches from Europe's finest, and we're here to bet on all of it. Joining me on this week's episode from the Kicks and Picks pod at Kicks Picks pod, our favorite Lazio fan at Nick Dianni. I'm Andrew Passaro. Thank you guys for watching, for listening. Please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Hit us with a like if you're listening. 5-star review, the whole nine yards. Nick, there's one place I want to start for today's episode. What's it like to have your goal scorer outscore all of Liverpool's entire team in the Champions League in 23-24?
It's okay. It's probably going to be the highlight of our season, so I guess I should hold on to it. It's one of those moments where, a draw felt like a win, and like I said, we'll enjoy it, but man, you want to talk about it. We better get this offense firing because it has been non-existent through 7 league games and through 1 Champions League game. So a little worrying.
Yeah. We'll see if Lazio come up as we get ready before they take on Celtic at Celtic Park in a couple days. I'm going right to the premier game for Tuesday. It's Napoli, it's Real Madrid, both teams plus 160 on the money line. I think both teams to score an over 2.5 at minus 115 is a solid number. But if you're like me and you want just a little bit of extra juice on there, I think you add over 7.5 corners to that. That's at +1. It brings it up to plus 147. That's hitting 4 out of the last 5 Napoli games and 3 out of those last 5 Madrid games. And I will say that this is like a game of even powers to some extent, where like you're going to have both teams push in at the other side of the pitch, which doesn't always happen with Real Madrid. Like, I think one of their games they missed out was Las Palmas, and that game ended 2-0, and Las Palmas did nothing with the ball for 90 minutes. That's certainly not going to be the case at Napoli. This will be a fun one. Ancelotti coming up against his old team. He used to manage Napoli a few years ago, and there's a ton of off-the-field drama going on at Napoli as well with Osimhen right now. And I personally think that Real Madrid would be pretty smart to go and try to buy him in January if he really wants to leave. The draw is plus 250, which is a really interesting number. I saw a lot of people throwing out a 2-2 draw on this one. And I think the over 3.5 at plus 184 is a fun number. But I'm just going to stick to that over 2.5 both teams to score, and I will tack on the corners. But those are a lot of numbers out there in that one.
Yeah, listen, first and foremost, I like your bet. I think this is a matchup of 2 teams who have probably underperformed to this point in the season. Real's had some tough injury breaks. Napoli still getting adjusted to their new coach. You mentioned the off-the-field drama with their social media team. That being said, Napoli's looked good the last 2 games. Back-to-back wins, much needed. They're scoring some goals. They're at home. This is weird for me because I will never, ever, ever go against Real Madrid, especially in the Champions League. But I don't mind taking a stab at Napoli, draw no bet, or Real Madrid, draw no bet, quite frankly, if you like them better. But just because Napoli's at home, that's currently at even money. I think that's kind of a solid shout. It's, this could turn their entire season around, a win in this game. But you're not wrong about the draw. That's why I kind of like draw no bet. I think neither team will be looking to lose this game. And quite honestly, I don't think it's make or break for them to get out of the group. I think they're going to be a little more cautious than normal, but eventually the game will open up and we'll start to see something.
It's so funny because I think that draw no bet line, it's almost the same number for both teams. And what's really funny is the team total over 1.5 is like plus 112 for both teams. So it's just such a game that nobody really, like, I could see it going so many different ways and I wouldn't be surprised. Right. Very excited to watch it. I'm pumped for that one. And Vinicius is back. It was rumored that he made it back, I think, like a week ago. It was rumored this would be the first game back, but he's had a couple games to get his legs under him. I'm going to jump to Red Bull Salzburg as they take on Real Sociedad. I talked about, when we got ready for Champions League, that I liked Sociedad to advance from this group. And Salzburg came out and punched Benfica in the mouth in their first game. They won that game with a red card for Benfica. And Sociedad have kept a clean sheet in their last 2 matches, but just won in their last 7 prior. I like over 2.5 at plus 106. I think this one goes 2-1. So there's a lot of ways you could play that. Both teams are scoring over 2.5 is plus 130. Real Sociedad money line is plus 145. And Sociedad and both teams to score is plus 390. There's a lot that is in this. This Sociedad team just won the Basque Derby. Kubo went and twerked afterwards. That clip was going viral over the weekend. This is just a really talented Sociedad team that we just don't think about. And it's like, I think we're going to look back at this team in like 3 or 4 years and be like, oh, wait, all these guys were together and we just didn't realize it. They were doing really well against Inter in that first game, match week 1.
Outplayed them.
And frankly, should have gotten a better result. So I'm not saying that Salzburg are a pushover. They've won their last 2. They've won a bunch of their recent matchups. And like I said, got a big result against Benfica in the Champions League. But I do think Sociedad can get the win here. But I think over 2.5 at plus money, I'm going to take that.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. We did our preview pod. We were high on Sociedad as well. I think they're underrated. I think they're undervalued. But Salzburg's a tricky team. They're at home. It's a team that's so hot and cold. You don't know what you're going to get out of them. But the first thing I thought of was Sociedad, draw no bet. Minus 130. It's like right on the edge of playable, but for a draw no bet, I'll live in that minus 130, minus 140 range. I think it's worth it to get that protection. And I think that if their, last round's form is any indication, they can get a result here. And I think they should, quite honestly. Like you said, it's one of those teams. I can't go out and name 5 or 6 players, but you watch them and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Who's this guy? They've got something.
Yeah. I have a couple parlays from Tuesday. Do you have anything else before I throw some crazy numbers at you?
Yeah. I mean, the thing I was looking at, Bayern Munich team total over 2.5. I mean, can they come out and absolutely barnstorm Copenhagen? I think they can. That's at minus 125 right now. That was really maybe the only thing I was looking at outside of these matches.
Yeah, no. Well, I'll start there because I have 2 props from that game in 2 different parlays. My regular parlay is just plus 300, and it's over 2.5 in that game. Then you do Inter money line versus Benfica. Like I said, Benfica are going to be short a defender, suspended from that last matchup, and then Arsenal money line at Lens. That's plus 300. That one doesn't seem too crazy. Then my crazy one is plus 1078. Arsenal team total over 1.5, over 3.5 goals in that Copenhagen Bayern game. I think of the 5 games that each team have played, so 10 total games those 2 teams have played, the over 3.5 hasn't hit in only one of them. So a lot of goals I'm expecting there. Union Berlin money line at home against Braga. I thought they played really well against Real Madrid in the Champions League. They gave up the late winner to what is it, Jude Bellingham in their first matchup in the Champions League against Madrid. And Braga were decent against Napoli, but they did lose at home. And Inter money line, keeping that on there against Benfica, that's plus 1078. Absolutely bonkers. I'm not putting anywhere close to a full unit, probably not even a half unit on it. But I'm gonna, I'm gonna roll the dice and throw it at the wall and see what happens. Wednesday is a very complicated day in the Champions League. Like, group of death is peak. You got Dortmund. You got Dortmund taking on Milan, Newcastle taking on PSG. Barcelona's playing at Porto. I found it hard to kind of find some things, but I did find some things. I'm going to PSG taking on Newcastle, and I'm targeting something that Ani has been targeting with Manchester United. Over 5.5 corners for PSG at plus 162. It's hitting 3 out of the last 5. It's hit in 3 of the last 5 PSG games, and it's only hit in 2 out of the last 5 Newcastle games where they've conceded that many corners. But they gave up 6 to Milan and Manchester City. I do expect PSG to have the lion's share of the ball, and that Newcastle defense is starting to find its form. I'm thinking we're going to get a lot of block shots, a lot of corners. I think we get over 5.5. I think we get 6 PSG corners, no problem. That's at plus 162. You can probably take it down to 4.5 and get a nicer number. PSG over 1.5 team total plus 114 is an interesting one. I haven't decided if I'll put that in or not. I'm thinking about it. I'm going to give myself one more good night's sleep before I go to town on it. But I'm bigger on this PSG team than a lot of people are. Yes. And I kind of think this Newcastle team just isn't ready for a very experienced PSG team so far.
Yeah, it's a tough game for me to separate personal feelings from what we should actually bet on. The first thing I'll say is, whenever you find a corner angle, I will hop on board with that 100% of the time. You are the architect of Inter Miami and fading them in corners. I don't think we've lost a bet since you told me about it. It has to be 2 months ago. So
I kind of stopped because here's what it is. Messi hasn't been playing, and if Messi's not playing, then it
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
then it doesn't matter. But
I don't know.
yes.
That's been a great bet. So I will ride with you on that blindly. And you mentioned it, right? You're higher on PSG. I'm not so high on them. I think they've obviously lost a ton of star power, new coach. I'm not the highest on Enrique, as maybe other people are, but what are they going to do in Champions League? Well, they didn't do it when they had their entire squad. I mean, Mbappe is back kind of with a vengeance, right? He's got that chip on his shoulder. They do have that going in their direction. It's a tough group. And then Newcastle, man. Newcastle's like a team of my heart because we've made so much money with them over the past
Yeah.
year and a half. But they haven't been that squad this year. They really, really haven't. They just don't look like they're ready. I think you nailed it. They probably needed another move or two in the transfer market, and they looked absolutely awful against Milan. Milan could have won that game 5-0. I don't know how it was a 0-0 draw. I mean, so what does this Newcastle team do? Do they take that momentum and do something with it, or do the law of averages come into play in this one and all of a sudden they're giving up 4 goals? It's kind of looking at the over. The Asian line of over 3 is -105, but I'm still undecided.
Yeah, I know. I can't blame you. I think that's going to be it's a must-watch game. I just don't know where it goes yet. Let's go to Leipzig, Man City. We have seen this one so many times, but when the game is traditionally held in Germany, we see both teams score. I like both teams to score and over 7.5 corners. That's +115. You add over 2.5 goals to that, and bring it down 1 corner. It's +134. So both teams to score over 2.5, over 6.5 corners. I really like this one because I've been doing this for the Liverpool games. But Leipzig have scored first in their last 5 matches.
Ooh.
And Man City have given up the first goal in their last 2 matches to Newcastle and to Wolves. It's +160. It's at Leipzig. There's a lot of speed on this Leipzig team with Appienda, with Xavi Simons is really fast. Can they pull something off and punch City in the mouth real quick? I don't know. +160, I'd love that number higher. If that number was +200, +250, I'd be all in.
Yep.
But I think I might sprinkle half a unit on it. But I do think we get goals. I think we get corners. And I think both teams to score.
Agree. I mean, over 3 Asian line, same thing here, -110. I think it's very playable. This could be a classic City Champions League game. I don't have it in front of me. Pardon me for this. I don't know if you've looked at it. Do we have a number on Haaland to score?
I can get it for you right now.
Almost seems to me like this is a game where he's just going to pop up, right? Hasn't scored in the last 2 or 3. You know what this man does in the Champions League. You know he's kind of due for a goal. We've not really seen a drought.
Number's good. No,
it's good.
The number's good. First goal scorer +310, anytime -110. I mean, he's right around there.
Okay.
Like, I know. You know what? It's another really good number. Julian Alvarez is +190 anytime goal scorer, and he's kind of been the man for them.
Yeah, I mean, provided he starts, I think that's definitely worthy of a bet. Let's wait for the lineup on that one, but I think this is a game where you're going to see a Haaland goal. I don't know, -110 if I'm going to put that in, but if it hits, you're going to clip that part of the episode, and we're going to pretend that I gave it out to the listeners.
Obviously. Well, when I put it on social, I'm just going to be like, yeah, Haaland go anytime goal scorer. And
we told you.
Don't worry. Yeah. I'm gonna go to parlays, but do you have anything else for Wednesday?
No, I think really that was kind of where we were at. I think a Barcelona money line potentially. Porto's tricky. I don't know. I'm like for 6,000 betting Portuguese teams in my lifetime, so do not quote me on that. But I didn't think we'd get Barcelona at that kind of number. I think that's maybe due to their form currently, and I'd probably be all over that.
Well, the Barcelona money line's in both of the parlays.
It's in one
of the parlays. Money line, they're at Porto over 1.5 in Dortmund versus Milan, over 8.5 corners in Newcastle PSG. That's +220. That should be that shouldn't be any problem. That should be an easy hit. Crazy one, +1114. Barcelona team total over 1.5 is also -120. So we're going to put that in there. Maybe they don't get the win, but they get 2 goals. Over 10.5 corners in Newcastle PSG, and over 2.5 goals in Dortmund versus Milan and Leipzig and Manchester City. Like I said, +1114.
I like it.
That
wasn't that many legs to get there. I like it. I like it a lot.
No, 4 legs, nothing crazy.
But one thing I do want to say, just I blindly do this. I haven't watched any Young Boys, so I can't comment on how Young Boys is this year. Red Star, anytime they're in a game ever, I take the over. I mean, blindly. They are just a overs team. It's like them and Feyenoord, and Feyenoord hasn't really come through so far this year. But Red Star Belgrade is like, if the over's at 2.5, like take the over blindly. So I imagine that continues against a team that's probably on their level, and we'll see a lot of back and forth.
And Young Boys gave up a lot of that. I think the over 3.5 hit in their game with Leipzig. So they came out and played well in that game. Yeah, the over 2.5 is -138, and the over 3.5 +186. I like both of that. And I think that is that one of the early games? No, it's a 3:00 game. It's not the 12:45. So Nick, thank you so much for jumping on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Always
go follow him for just as many bets as we're giving out at Nick Dianni, and his wonderful podcast at Kicks Picks Pod. They're on YouTube, so go follow them, subscribe, like their videos, watch their stuff. They come out a day before us, so between the two of our podcasts, you have way too many bets on soccer,
I think so.
and I don't see how that's a problem. But we'll be back later in the week. We've got another busy weekend in the Premier League, and I for one am excited about it. So we'll catch you guys then. Let's stay positive. Best of luck. We'll see you on Friday.